everybody today talking about Dia Bell, the 2026 quarterback commitment for the Texas Longhorns. What stands out to you most, Hank, about Dia Bell?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. I think you watch his tape, and I think the thing that jumps out to me the most is his pocket presence. And I by no means, tout myself as like this QB guru or evaluator, but he looks really comfortable in the pocket. You never really see him panic, even when the play breaks down. He can still make things happen. He throws the ball with nice touch. He's accurate, and he's competitive. And I tweeted this yesterday too, but for those not familiar with American Heritage High School or really any high school football in South Florida, that's kind of the cream of the crop in terms of the top talent in the country. South Florida is known to put out top guys year in and year out. I think American Heritage has, I want to say 30, maybe 27 or 37. Regardless, that's still an insane amount. NFL guys, Patrick Surtain, Brian Burns, Tyson Campbell, all sorts of guys that have gone through that program. And for him to, start at a young age and with, that competition, I think says a lot about his mental makeup. But yeah, pocket presence, he's still growing. His dad's Rajah Belly is an NBA player. He hasn't even fully
6'5". His dad is 6'5", Rajah Bell.
Yeah. So you got to imagine he's still growing. He's going to be a different looking player by the time he gets to the college level. And so I think Texas and I think all these schools really loved that aspect of it, kind of that physical upside. What are you going to have in him in 2 years? So big get. I don't know a program that's recruiting quarterbacks better than Texas. It's just kind of an insane run. Even when you factor in guys, I know there's stories out there about, you get Arch and then you have a couple off years with Trey Owens and KJ Lacey. I'm not sure those are off years. We saw Trey Owens ball out in the spring game. I think he has the makeup to be a really special player eventually. And KJ Lacey, who's out in California right now, about to compete in the Elite 11 finals, I think he'll have a say before it's all said and done too. So really, really strong group coming in, and Dia Bell just kind of cements that.
Yeah, Hank, talk about, KJ Lacey at this point, because he's kind of sandwiched in between a lot of guys who are, no offense to him, but 5 stars and ranked ahead of him. I mean, once he gets on campus next year, most likely it's going to be Arch's show. And you just mentioned Trey Owens. And then once, Arch, he could clearly leave, but now Dia Bell will be stepping in. So very different quarterbacks, like KJ, more of a smaller Bryce Young type, he's still locked in for what Sark and AJ Milwee are trying to do, correct?
Yeah, he is. And there were some questions, I think, earlier in the year. Auburn was making a big push for him. But, he's been really happy with Texas, and not even, all the way through all the Keelan Russell buzz, was Texas going to offer Keelan Russell? Were they going to try to take a 2-quarterback class? It never really fazed him. And so, he's, not as highly ranked. I think we have him, or he's in the composite. He's a top 100 prospect, so he's not some slouch. I think it'll be an important year for him. Obviously, I think the critics would look at KJ Lacey and be like, well, he's throwing the ball to Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams is making all these things happen. I think the same could be said for Keelan Russell. He has Corey Moore to throw to. So, these guys will have a chance to make a name, without those other, the star power out there. So I think it'll be an important year evaluation wise and rankings wise for KJ Lacey and this week's event at the Elite 11 finals, for him to get out and compete against the nation's best. He's certainly one of them. But like you said, he lacks the measurables. We've seen that not really matter when it comes to NFL draft time. Kyler Murray, Bryce Young, both those guys, 5'9", 5'10". KJ Lacey's taller than that. But just a kid that, has it all together. He has high football IQ. He knows what's happening in the play in all space and every different spot. So, I think it also says a lot about, the fact that Sark and AJ Milwee dialed in on him so quick. I think that, when those guys dial in on a quarterback, that kid's probably going to be pretty special. And they saw that early in him, and, they've stuck with him. They love him. So I think he could be, a solid player. And what's funny is like, and I was talking to Keelan Russell about this, I think, at one of the Under Armour camps. If you go, you commit to a school as a quarterback that, has a succession plan like Quinn to Arch to, maybe Dia in the future. It's like, what does that mean for you? You're like, where are you going to fit in? It's like, well, we're in an era where if it's not working out, if you don't win your quarterback competition, you can go somewhere else. It's like you're not in this like situation where you're stuck there. Like what's the harm in going to compete for a year or two? If it's not going to work out for you, you have that experience. You have the opportunity of being coached by Steve Sarkisian and have that on your resume, which makes you an attractive option for any school. Ask Malik Murphy. And so, yeah, it's not it wouldn't be the worst thing if it didn't work out. So, yeah, they're in good position. KJ Lacey loves Texas. His family loves Texas. He's coming in for an official visit this weekend after he's done in LA. And I would expect him to be, in Khalid Lockett's ear and Jamie French's ear. He's talking to Decory Moore. So he'll be hard at work trying to get some more weapons into Austin.
You mentioned Keelan Russell, and I think he was committed to SMU before he ultimately committed to Alabama. And there was some significant conversation, right, between Texas and Keelan Russell. What do you think separated the two for Texas?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think, maybe had it been timing, obviously Texas started pushing for KJ Lacey in the summer of 2023. Keelan Russell had another big year at Duncanville this past season and kind of really started blowing up rankings wise and, offers wise this spring. Had they not already landed KJ Lacey, would they have gone Keelan Russell or made a push there? I think, I think Texas was in a spot where they didn't feel they were going wrong with either of those guys if they decided to offer Keelan, but they already had KJ. And, if you have that, you feel good about that. You trust your evaluation. I don't think they saw any reason to, move on from that. And, what else could have maybe helped? And I know this isn't like, probably not the main reason, but you see Trey Owens go out there and compete at a high level in one game, in a spring game in front of all the fans and, kind of ball out in a head-to-head with Arch Manning. Maybe that kind of made you feel better about not taking two quarterbacks in the class of 2025. That's just me kind of thinking out loud, but I think that could have been too, because I talked to one source earlier this spring, and the plan was, they wanted to take two quarterbacks just for depth purposes after the season when you only have Trey and Arch, most likely, assuming Quinn goes, and then whoever comes in 2025. So, yeah, I think probably timing was the biggest thing there. But again, Texas loves KJ Lacey, and I think for good reason. He's a really talented kid.
Talk about this past weekend at the 40 Acres, Hank. Obviously, the headlines was Decory Moore had his grandma there and whole family with Sark. And
whole family,
man. All the kinfolk was in town. And it seemed like a special moment that not too many guys could share.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest storyline was Decory Moore coming in for his official. Like y'all said, he had everybody there. He actually, he has family in Austin. His mom's from Austin, so it is like, he talks about coming home. He like legitimately is a home for him. So I think that's really playing to Texas's favor with Decory Moore. I think a lot of people were hoping he would just commit this weekend and, not take this Oregon visit upcoming this weekend. He ended up not doing that, but I think Texas is in good shape there. It's hard to almost, we have to write about Decory Moore all the time because, he's Decory Moore. He's worth writing about all the time, but like, nothing really changes our opinion on where we think this is going to end up. I think Texas has done the best job recruiting him. He is the top priority at wide receiver, maybe on offense, or maybe the rest of this class for Texas. He's just that good. And so, he knows that. I think people in his circle are trying to get him just to, they want him at Texas. Obviously he has former Duncanville teammates at Texas. So it's a group effort. Everyone wants, Decory Moore at Texas. I think it'll eventually happen. Looks like he is going to follow through and take this Oregon visit this weekend. Obviously, LSU is still in the mix. I don't think he's going to return to LSU. Ohio State has been talked about as kind of maybe the main competition for him. But I think at the end of the day, I think he sees the opportunity in Texas. And even Decory Moore yesterday when Diabell committed, he was responding to the tweet. He put out a fire emoji, so he was watching that too. So, I think any receiver looks at Texas and sees, who's going to be throwing me the ball. Texas is probably the most attractive option just in that alone. Plus, the relationships he has in Austin, the push they've been making for him. So that was probably the biggest, most notable visit, Decory Moore. But man, there was 15 other kids on campus, all of them for the most part top targets or at least high choice guys that Texas really likes. I think one of the ones I came away from this weekend with most interested to learn about was Nick Brooks, who's this 6'7", 345-pound offensive tackle from Iowa, which the last guy that big offensive tackle came from Iowa was Caden Proctor, who's obviously having a really successful time at Alabama after a brief return to Iowa. But no, he was on campus, and we going into it, it was kind of a USC Georgia kind of race from what we were hearing. He's actually from Georgia, but he's back. He's playing and he's finishing high school in Iowa. So that was kind of the vibe we were hearing. I think Texas knocked it out of the park. We talk about Fasusi, we talk about Lamont Rogers and all these other offensive linemen, but Nick Brooks definitely needs to be mentioned more too. And I was talking to one person close to Brooks, and Tashard Choice is actually, you got Kyle Flood obviously recruiting him, but Tashard Choice is actually playing a big role in this recruitment as well with those Georgia ties. So, it's a team effort with him, but I think Texas did a good job with him. Sorry, I'm still in a hotel. My dogs are barking. I think someone's knocking on our door, but so that's fun. But no, overall, Kevin Wynn, a four-star defensive lineman from the state of Georgia, he was in town. Hold on, guys. I'm sorry. 1 second.
No worries. You got guys getting everything done. His house is getting worked on.
Yo, those on the residents in though, man.
Oh yeah, he's covering recruiting like crazy, and he's also handling the housekeeping.
Yeah, it's we're almost done here at this hotel. So
God bless you.
But no, Kevin Wynn, four-star defensive lineman from Georgia, he was in town. I think Texas I say Texas made a big impression. Like, they do really good jobs, on these official visits. Kind of showing these kids the whole presentation, academics, athletics, everything. So they impressed the parents too. But he seemed like he really liked Texas. I was talking to one person in South Carolina yesterday, and they're saying they're still hearing buzz about Kevin Wynn in Texas, just from and he's been home for 48 hours now. So maybe that's one to watch. Other guys like Lamont Rogers, big offensive line target. Kelshawn Johnson, another top receiver target that it's coming down to Texas A&M for. I think Texas made a good push there. I could go on and on and on. I think they had a really strong weekend. I think out of this group we saw this past weekend, you'll probably see 5 or 6 commits from that group ultimately when all is said and done. Probably more. I don't have the list right in front of me, but you look at a guy like DeCorian Moore, Kelshawn Johnson, potentially Nick Brooks, Jonathan Cunningham, who's kind of an underrated linebacker from North Crowley, John Mills, another offensive line target all the way out from San Francisco. He was in town. Texas is high on him and vice versa. So I think when we look back at this summer, this weekend might be the most, fruitful in terms of eventual guys in this class.
Well, Hank, Riley Pettijohn, this is a guy I've been keeping my eyes on because Texas they need to load up at linebacker. Reading this Stampede, it sounds like he's going to be in A&M, College Station this weekend.
Yep.
And that this race might be tighter than expected. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I got a 4-year-old with right next to me.
It's all right.
No, yeah, I'll open it in just a second. Okay, go twist the lock. Twist the lock. Gosh, man.
Oh, you're good, man.
In real time.
It all going. We appreciate you.
No, I got you. I'm going to answer this question. You know what? You guys can walk with me.
Yeah.
All right. So Riley Pettijohn, that's one we thought, was always Texas, or leaning Texas. I still think that's the case. I have a crystal ball in for Texas. Throughout, January, I think Florida State, maybe Ohio State were in it more. USC's been a big factor. But from what we're hearing, it sounds like A&M's kind of the top competition, and that's where he's going to be this weekend. Like I said, I still lean towards Texas getting him. They obviously, want to sign a bigger linebackers class after only getting Ty Anthony Smith in 2024. And he's been the top guy. You got Elijah Bo Barnes, who's committed. He's locked in. He's going to be on campus this weekend. He's not going anywhere. And I just mentioned Jonathan Cunningham a minute ago too. But Riley Pettijohn, in terms of linebacker targets, he's the guy they want the most in terms of the guys out there still. But Barnes is already committed. But So that'll be a visit we're watching this weekend. Texas A&M wants them just as bad. Obviously, they'd like to get maybe some payback to Texas for flipping Anthony Smith last cycle. So we'll see.
Anthony Hill.
Anthony Hill, of course. So that's one we'll be checking on this weekend. I still lean Texas, but I just think the race is more narrow than maybe I thought it was originally.
Yeah, that's gonna be exciting. Any other recruitments like that, Hank, where someone's either gaining ground or it's going to be tighter than we thought?
Yeah. There's a few of them. I think, one recruitment I'll talk about this weekend that interested me was Brandon Brown. And obviously, you're big on the defensive line. Texas commit, 2 weeks ago, it was like, when is this kid going to flip to LSU? It seems like it's already done. He visited Baton Rouge, obviously has the connection to Bo Davis, but he made it back to Austin this weekend. And, the feeling I get, from talking to people near his recruitment is, I think Brandon Brown wants to be at Texas. I think he obviously loves Bo Davis. He was a coach that took a chance on him, but I think he also, once he got out to Austin in the spring and got back this weekend, I think he really, really likes it at Texas. And it's not just because of Bo Davis. I think some in his camp probably prefer Bo Davis, just because, he was the coach that took a, flyer on him early on. And that's fair, but I think Texas, gave him a lot to think about this weekend. And, we talked to him on Sunday and he was saying, his commitment's pretty strong actually. So, I don't think he's quite out the door just yet. I'm not thinking LSU flip as much as I was. Could end up happening. Yeah. He's going to be at Oklahoma this weekend. That was kind of a weird late visit he set up. I think it's going to be a Texas LSU race, but, not as sure about him not being in this class anymore. I think Kelshawn Johnson is another one. I think that's been going back and forth between Texas and Texas A&M. USC was kind of a factor in there as well, but I think that's going to come down to those two. I think Texas is doing a good job there. Dorian Brew, as I should talk about, there's 3 guys that are getting on campus today for midweek officials, which is what we don't usually see. Sark usually brings guys in on the weekends. The midweeks aren't something that are, unless it's a transfer portal kind of situation, but 3 high school kids, Dorian Brew, who's obviously 5-star cornerback from Conroe. Then you got Nathan Tillman, an SMU commit. I got Jordan calling me. I wonder if news just broke. Let's see.
And if you need to bounce.
I think, wait, hold on. Let's see.
Or we could get something breaking on.
We might get breaking news right here. Sorry, this is just like the most chaotic segment for me.
No. Hey. And if you need to cut out, we'll
no, we're good. I saw a notification about John Mills because we are on commitment watch for him, but it's just a what happened? Oh, okay. Jordan's funny. Okay. No, we're good. It was just a John Mills story about his official visit. So what was I saying? The 3 guys on campus, Dorian Brew, the 5-star cornerback from Conroe. That's a Texas, Oregon, USC kind of race right there. Then you got Nathan Tillman, who's an interesting new offer they put out on June 1st. He's committed to SMU right now, but he's going to be on campus at Texas in the next, he's I think in like 30 minutes for an official visit. That's one I would keep a close eye on. If Texas is pushing there, I don't see him sticking with SMU. We'll see if he takes any other visits this weekend. And then one that's like, we'll see what happens. I think it's more of just like a courtesy visit, but Dijon Lee, he's a 5-star cornerback, 6'4" cornerback from California. That's kind of from right now, it's like an Alabama, Georgia race. Maybe Texas can put a dent in there. And then, so those are the 3 guys on campus for midweeks. And then we'll have obviously, another loaded group of officials this weekend. But so a lot happening, a lot of tight races, and it should be interesting to see how it ends up.